Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right?
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. We are here on this No King's Day, and as always, I'm joined by Chris Paul. Chris, how'd you celebrate? How'd you choose to take in the No Kings protests?
I had myself a king for a day, which
Ooh.
meant, yeah, I just did whatever I wanted all the time.
That's amazing.
Like,
That's
as hard as I could. Yeah.
It's kind of like contradicting the No Kings, what you're going for, but I think I like that.
Well, that's my responsibility as a digital warrior.
Is to be a king.
Yes.
On No Kings Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. The No Kings protests were just as ridiculous and retarded as last time, I would say, if not more so. If you like blackjack, this is a great video. I thought this was hilarious. I personally love blackjack, so I laughed way too hard at this one.
No kings of kings! No kings! No kings! No kings! 8647, 8647, 8647. Kings! No kings!
Do you get it?
Shockingly loud.
It is loud.
Yes,
Sorry.
no kings. I'm with you.
Yeah, and if you have a 13 and the dealer has a 10, you want like an 8, 6, 4, or 7. So that's just like great meme. But yeah, this is RT is sharing a lot of this stuff. This doesn't even look real. I don't know if it is real.
No, that does not look real.
Yeah.
I also would be amazed that they could get that many people. And by the way, BG on the scene is like the on the ground reporter for every psyop. Seriously.
I've never heard of him.
You go back and watch psyop footage from any of the protest movements since 2020, and it's always BG on the scene. All around the country, all over the place. I guess he has a drone here, or maybe he just put his watermark on this. I don't know.
Interesting. I do have a question, though. I believe in everybody's First Amendment right to, protest and do things.
Mm-hmm.
But when's the last time, like, a protest actually changed the outcome of something? Like, that's an honest question, because I can't think of a single time.
Yeah, I got to feel like the answer is never. And also, these are set up and funded and organized by the same organizations all the time. These, like, the fact that normal people join these makes these events seem like they're organic and they're real movements of the people, but they're not. These are color revolution, optics oriented events. And the real people that join them provide the cover for what is just an element of a color revolution operation.
What do you mean by normal people?
So, I remember I think we've talked about this before. In 2020, I was still in Los Angeles and I was living right in the heart of Hollywood. And they had one of the George Floyd marches through, like, down Hollywood Boulevard. And supposedly there were hundreds of thousands of people there or whatever. And, I knew people who went and they would take their pictures for Instagram and they would all post their pictures. And there were a lot of people there. But all of that is for the sake of the narrative effort that they're making. And I talk about some of this at long length in that Chicken Egg Chicken article. But the movement, the color revolution effort, the information operation that they are producing needs these events and needs them to have that organic element. So they set the event up and then the organic element adds itself because there are people out there who are attracted to going out and being part of a group and, making it part of their personal brand on social media that they are an activist and a protester and that they are part of the solution that is going to bring down this tyrant. And so the organic element adds itself, but you can never remove the fact that these are astroturfed events and that they are broadcast to the country for a reason. I mean, all the signs that are printed in coordination, all of the celebrities, all of the staging and the production for some of these events. I mean, in New York, they had like Robert De Niro out there with Letitia James and Al Sharpton.
What a weird combo.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some investigations going on, and I think people have been looking into this since the first No Kings protest.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 500 different groups involved in organizing this stuff. They have a revenue annual revenue of about $3 billion among them. And it's not just George Soros. There's like multiple people behind these things. And I think you're right. Like the optics and the narrative they're going for and the timing of this with, all the Iran conflict and all the division and podcast wars going on, they're building to not just the outcome of what they're going to do with the midterms, like the stealing of the midterms, but then what they're going to do post midterms to Trump, which I think we'll probably talk a little bit about that. There's a story, I can't remember what outlet it's in, but where they're at New Republic, where they're talking about there's going to be no post-presidential peace for Trump, talking about all the methods they're going to go after him and all the ways that didn't work before and how it's going to be harder. And I think we should just talk about that a little bit. But yeah, but we can get into that. We also got some Iran stuff. We got the TSA stuff. We have, just clicking through my links here, we have another federal judge blocking some bullshit. Iran apparently hacked Kash Patel's emails, and there's a whole bunch of stuff coming out about that, which is kind of funny. Yeah, we'll see what else. I mean, I have a ton of tabs open, so we'll just start piecing through them as we go. But before we do that, let's get a quick word from the sponsors of today's show. And first up, we have Love Litters. Attention all you Badlanders with purring pals and feathered friends. Say hello to Love Litters. 100% pure kiln-dried wood, free from chemicals and oh so kind to Mother Earth. No dust, no mess, and no toxins. Just a lightweight solution that's gentle on your wallet and even gentler in your home. Their biodegradable litter is crafted from wood destined for landfills, giving it a new purpose in your pet's life. And cats love it. Love Litter's astonishing formula works like magic to neutralize that notorious cat urine odor, keeping your home pine fresh and welcoming. And for bird lovers, it zaps moisture from bird droppings, crumbling them away, all while being safe if pecked at or ingested. And for reptiles and critters too, their mix is crafted to dilute the pine scent, ensuring those little lungs stay happy and healthy. Plus, every 30-pound bag of Love Litters will last up to 6 months, saving you some money. So transform your pet care routine today. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/litter. That's badlandsmedia.tv/litter. And breathe easy with a litter that loves your pet just as much as you do. Then we also got some soft disclosure. The Easter sale is here. Get yourself some soft disclosure. Softdisclosure.com.
Every Easter, one brave bunny takes on a very important mission. Spreading Easter joy. And apparently dropping most of it. And sometimes there's goat-related complications. Skincare so good even the goats might want it. Because Easter is really about the greatest victory ever. Hope, renewal, and a promise kept. And every soft disclosure purchase supports 6 small American businesses working together. Use code GRACE for 15% off. Soft disclosure. Good for your skin. And apparently approved by goats.
Softdisclosure.com. Oh man, Green Star's just killing it with those ads.
Yeah.
And the more we can make fun of Burning Bright, the better. But yeah, I don't even know which story to start with.
Wait, hold on with the No Kings thing for a second, because I was thinking about this today. You know, we're at the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. You know, 1776. This is supposed to be America's 250th birthday celebration, and of course, you get all the articles about how Donald Trump is the king in that parallel. And so what's being presented here is all of these American cultural icons, for instance, with Robert De Niro and Al Sharpton and the rest of it. These are being presented as the people who stood up in the revolution against this great tyrant who was affecting the country's trade and the rest of it. And some of it's in that New Republic article, but that's who they're painting Donald Trump to be. And the funny thing is that, you know, well, first of all, right now they have the partnership of the Uniparty right in hammering this whole idea home. But Donald Trump has been displayed a number of times on the world stage as essentially king of the world. We talked about that a bunch last fall and the rest of it. So I thought that was interesting. And I think it's just, we might as well pull up the link I shared there just for a second to remind people of all the partner organizations involved in these protests. They were saying that they were expecting 9 million people to go out in the streets today and join these No Kings protests. Last year, they joined the gay pride protests in some of the places around the country back in June for the first one. But this is like every left-wing organization that has ever existed, just commie organizations all over the place. It really is crazy how deep this goes.
Wow.
I don't know. What is that? 300 organizations?
Well, I mean, the article that I read earlier it said $503 billion in annual revenue.
So crazy.
Yeah. So that's how they do it. And going to that article that you mentioned there, the New Republic one, this is what it's called. It's called There Will Be No Post-Presidential Peace for Donald Trump. And the comparison you made to Trump being king, they say it here. A rundown of the Trump administration's scandals and crimes resembles with shocking likeness the grave sweeping charges laid out in the Declaration of Independence against the last American king. He has excited domestic insurrections against us, the founding fathers wrote about George III in 1776. Is there any better way of describing Trump's actions on January 6th, 2021? I think there's a few better ways to probably describe that. He supported a violent mob aiming to overthrow the government. He maintains a similar disrespect for the institutions of American democracy to this day. In early February, he threatened to nationalize American elections in a lawless and perhaps impossible bid to keep Democrats from retaking Congress. The similarities do not end there. The Declaration describes the king cutting off our trade with all parts of the world and imposing taxes on us without our consent. Sound familiar? Since last spring, Trump has used a Cold War-era sanctions law to unilaterally impose trillions of dollars in tariffs upon American customers and businesses. The law makes no mention of tariffs, and in February, the Supreme Court accordingly struck them down. Foremost among the founders' fears of threats to liberty was the potential misuse of the military. Trump, to borrow their phrasing, has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. In a show of propagandistic force, he has stationed thousands of National Guard troops from around the country within the District of Columbia, despite the opposition of local government. The president frequently threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act to send military forces into Democratic-led states and cities. So yeah, they're definitely trying to frame him as a king, and it's just funny because like they look at that as a bad thing. We look at that as like, well, he's the king of the world. Like we're okay with that in some ways. So yeah, it's very interesting. But as I said earlier, this is all the laying the groundwork to whatever happens with the midterms, whether or not we get elections fixed or not. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, and if it doesn't, they're going to steal it again. And if that happens,
you mean?
Yeah, or whatever. Not just the SAVE Act. I was saying anything other than the SAVE Act. I don't count that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't think anything's going to make us have real elections by the midterms, but the SAVE Act could conceivably pass. And then
think so?
then the Democrats being declared the winners would be even more dramatic. Man, I'm not ruling out any level to which we could get the hose again. We asked for the hose. We are getting the hose now repeatedly.
I didn't ask for it.
Yeah, well,
I don't think you asked for it.
No, I didn't. In fact, I was encouraging people not to ask for the hose, saying, please stop doing this. It's never going to work. We are only going to get the hose again. And here we find ourselves another 2.5 years later having the exact same discussion.
But you know what? If you do get the hose again, it may be painful, but you can probably ease some of that pain with some soft disclosure. The lotion is very soothing. So just throwing that out there, everybody. But yeah, the whole Congress thing has been retarded. It's always been retarded, but the last like couple of weeks, especially with the TSA debate going on while the SAVE Act stuff is going on. And this is why I don't think they're actually going to pass the SAVE Act. We're on that cusp now where we are going to just get rid of that filibuster. Like everybody's finally like, okay, let's just get rid of the filibuster. The same thing they've been saying for 6 months now or more. And Congress left town. I think was it Friday, yesterday or Thursday? They didn't end up passing anything meaningful. They didn't pass the SAVE Act. They didn't pass the TSA funding thing. Trump signed an executive order. Well, maybe they did. Well, it was the Senate that passed it, then left town. But then Congress was like, no, we don't want this version. We want to fund ICE, even though everything we've read about the ICE funding from the big, beautiful bill, it's like they don't need ICE funding. Like it's already set. Like it's just all so stupid and confusing. But it is interesting how as soon as Trump signed that executive order to fund TSA, which they're supposed to start getting paid on Monday, all of a sudden Congress is like, okay, we'll get our shit together. We'll pass something. We don't want to give Trump the victory here, and they rush to get something done, even though they haven't yet.
Yeah, it didn't. Whatever happened, it didn't work. It's interesting to think. So it didn't seem like there was any compromise in the offing, and then all of a sudden they were getting together to pass this legislation and hopefully get this compromise through so that they could get TSA going again. Because not only did Trump put ICE there and announce that it was like a good PR move for them to put ICE in the airports, and that people were loving the fact that ICE was there. So that was one Trump win on that narrative. And then he took another one and said, I think probably preempting the fact that they were going to come back and try to take credit as the Congress for getting the TSA going again. Trump just jumped the gun on that one and declared that he was going to get it done. Then the Congress failed. If Trump gets this done now, it's very clear that Trump was the one who succeeded in getting the TSA back on the job, and the Congress and the Senate had nothing to do with it. And the stuff that Trump supports on Truth Social, I would just suggest that everybody out there give it a thought next time you see him supporting one of these things really hard, whether it is just him making it absolutely abundantly clear to everyone in the country that the piece of legislation or whatever it is that failed and didn't go the way that the Republican establishment wanted it to go, it's definitely not Trump's fault, because he was out there pushing for this thing to happen. He can do that knowing it's not going to happen, and then there's no way that he can be blamed for it. Whereas if he spoke like what he actually thought about it, if it was bad, and said that thing's bad, well, then if it doesn't work, Trump is responsible for it failing, not the Republican establishment. So the idea, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, is to kind of commandeer all the good stuff they're doing so that he gets credit for it in the endorsements, for instance, and then push all of the credit for the failures back onto them by having gone along with it and just said, saying, I'm not the one who can ultimately decide this thing. That's for other people to take care of, but I pushed it as much as I could.
Yeah, I mean, the vaccine is such a good example of him doing that.
Yeah,
like he pushed it. It's not his fault. Like he endorsed it. If he would have went against it, he probably would have been impeached back in the first term. And then a good example of him doing that right now is this, the funding of the ICE stuff. Like he kept pushing it. He went along with it. Congress is clearly the ones that are responsible for this, the TSA and the lines at the airports, because Trump came out and wrote this executive order. And I even have the Truth Social post here where he says, probably won't read the whole thing. He talks shit about Chuck Schumer. They're refusing to fund immigration enforcement unless Republicans agree to their open border policies, which will never, ever happen again. And almost destroyed our country. Because the Democrats have recklessly created a true national crisis, I am using my authorities under the law to protect our great country, as I will always do. Therefore, I'm going to sign an order instructing the Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, to immediately pay our TSA agents in order to address this emergency situation and to quickly stop the Democrat chaos at the airports. It is not an easy thing to do, but I'm going to do it. I want to thank our hardworking TSA agents and also ICE for the incredible help they've given us at the airports. I will not allow the radical left Democrats to hold our country hostage any longer. And then they rushed to fund it as soon as he stopped that shit. So,
and I think that they're funding it with the money that we mentioned last week that was allotted in the one big beautiful bill.
The Cato thing?
Yeah, remember we were talking about however many billions were set aside for ICE and Border Patrol specifically.
Yeah, I think it was like 75 billion.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, ICE received roughly 75 billion in new budget authority.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he was, I read somewhere yesterday, and I'm not going to remember which article it was, but that he is redirecting money from this for that purpose, which is great because he just basically gave himself a slush fund to handle all of these things on his timeline whenever he chooses, knowing that the Congress can't actually get anything done.
Yeah, it says in his executive order for this that accordingly, I hereby direct the Secretary of Homeland Security in coordination with the Director of Office of Management and Budget to use funds that have a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations. to provide TSA employees with the compensation and benefits that would have accrued to them if not for the Democrat-led shutdown. So that's a pretty broad and vague statement there. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's like they planned ahead for this to happen almost. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Well, the other side's plan has to be laid out. They plan everything and then they tell the public about their plans and what they're going to do. They like paint the orchestration for everybody. And then when people recognize the orchestration and say, hey, that orchestration is actually bad, they're like, well, that's misinformation. You're pushing a conspiracy theory to say that all of this is orchestrated. They admit it's orchestrated. They're just upset. It becomes a conspiracy theory when you decide you don't like their orchestration. Saying that their orchestration is bad, that makes it a conspiracy theory. If you go to the World Economic Forum and give them an award for their orchestration, well, then they think that it's the greatest thing ever.
I guess I'm confused. What do you mean their orchestration? I missed the very first part of what you were saying.
Like
so
when you have one of these big events, the global agenda, the Agenda 2030, if you go on the UN and look at their sustainable development goals, for instance, or you go to the World Economic Forum and look at what their goals for the future are and how they're going to handle the poly crisis or whatever. They know all the problems that are going to happen. They know exactly how they want to solve it. They know what like NGOs and donor sources, like financial sources and the rest of it. They have the whole system put together and they push it out to the public and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Do you want to get involved? Do you want to help? You're going to have to help. And so we're like, hey, look, this is what they're doing. They've showed us this entire orchestration of this system. They showed exactly what they're intending to do and on what timeline. And they advertise it as though it's the best thing in the world. They're going to solve everybody's problems for the lowest possible amount of money. This is going to make the world just work like you've never seen it work before. And if you don't like that, if you say, hey, look what these corrupt people are doing to try to take total control over the world's governments, then you're a conspiracy theorist because you don't like the orchestration.
I see what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes much more sense. I just missed that first part of what you said. So
no worries.
But yeah, and that's kind of what you always talk about, how that agenda that they're pushing is still going forward. Like they're still trying to accomplish that. And that's one of the things that Trump is to a degree going along with. And then when he diverts it, like he can either take credit for the good parts of it or pass blame on to the bad parts of it. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of this new stuff that's rolling out. I do want to get into some of the Iran stuff. Did you see? Let me just
say, sorry, one last thing on that, John.
Yeah.
The people who are criticizing Trump right now, you mentioned correctly that it seems like he is implementing parts of that plan. And he is straight up saying that he is. So people having that impression is entirely reasonable if they're taking Trump at face value. The people criticizing Trump for doing that want Trump out of the picture so that they can put in these other members of the Republican establishment. That Trump is taking the responsibility for these terrible parts of the globalist agenda that are being implemented. And he has to, because he's the face of the project at this point, right? He can't be hands off if he's allowing parts of the deep state that is still deeply embedded in his administration. If he's allowing them to implement some of these plans, there's no way he can take his hands off that. But a lot of the critique of Trump is then like hoping that JD Vance can extract himself from this situation so that his reputation isn't too tarnished to be able to make him the next guy. Or maybe it's Rubio, or maybe it's Massey and Rand Paul, and they start proposing all of these other options. Tucker Carlson and whoever.
Joe Kent, yeah.
Right. So, or Tulsi Gabbard, all the replacements are more of the establishment that Trump is. But because of these war narratives and because of his pro-Israel stances much of the time, even though he's like the one responsible for Israel's reputation dropping in ways that you could never have imagined a few years ago. He's still the focal point of all that, but they want to remove him and replace him with the thing that is actually pushing that agenda. And I would die on this hill that these people who are never right about anything are also never right about this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the JD Vance thing is probably the one that's most interesting to me, considering his background, but also, he came out of the CPAC polling, which, by the way, did you see the attendance at CPAC? Some of those pictures that were circulating?
Yeah.
That's pretty hysterical. But he was leading from the straw poll. He got like 51% to, I think it was Rubio got 32% or something.
Yeah, 35, I think. I was at CPAC in 2023. And like any of these sorts of conventions, during the day, during the morning, when there's not like a keynote speaker or whatever, or if people just aren't all that interested in the speeches and who's on stage, the conference room is empty and everybody is out in the hallways, going to different booths, trying to like network with people, socialize. These are really big hotels. So the conference room itself is not a great indicator. That said, these are not attractive events without Donald Trump there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have Trump's base specifically coming to see Trump speak, well, CPAC is nothing at that point. Trump has taken all the CPAC energy and redirected it toward himself.
Yeah. Speaking of conferences, real quick, guys, might as well plug our own conference. It's coming up in a couple of weeks here. Get your GART tickets, everybody.
Patriots, the fight for truth doesn't stop at the screen. It's hitting the road again. Badlands Media is rolling into Nashville on April 9th through 12th for the next stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Join your favorite Badlands hosts and like-minded Americans for 3 powerful days. Packed with unfiltered discussions, deep dive panels, and real debate. Hear the raw truth, ask the tough questions. No topic too hot, no question too bold. GART is where our community comes alive. Tickets are on sale now at badlandsmedia.tv/GART, where you can also grab a virtual pass and watch from home. Join us to question narratives and fight for America's future. Nashville's calling. The restoration continues. Get your passes today. See you in Music City.
Get those GART tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events if you cannot make it in person. And by the way, single day tickets are now on sale, but you can get your virtual ticket. Join us in the Telegram chat, and we will do our best to make it like you are actually there, except you'll be at home on your couch. And it's probably a nice couch, so probably not the worst thing in the world. Before we even get to the Ayatollah being gay, I want to play this clip because we were just talking about Trump and how he puts these people, and these are the ones that are going to try to subvert his agenda, right? Or at least we hypothesize that may be the case. Well, one of the things he did, one of the biggest problems I think that we've seen exposed over the last year and a half or so, is the fraud that's in this country. I mean, we were borderline having like a discussion in this country about some sort of tax revolt, and then things got distracted. I think it was the ICE situation, the pretty good shooting up in Minnesota. We kind of went away from that for a little bit. And now
good shoot. Nicely done.
Yeah. Now we got JD Vance named as the fraud czar.
Yes.
And we thought Doge was going to take care of all the fraud. At least that's what we were promised. Apparently that didn't happen because we needed another attempt at it. And he is leading a roundtable or something with all the people in attendance here for the first fraud meeting.
Anti-fraud task force work is that we're communicating across different departments. So when Bobby Kennedy is talking to Scott Dissent about things that he's seeing in Medicare and Medicaid, when Scott is seeing things at Treasury, when Brooke is seeing things at agriculture, when Scott is seeing things at housing and urban development, what we're going to actually do is force the bureaucracy to take this seriously and work together in anti-fraud.
Nick Shirley was there. Benny Johnson, I believe, was there. I think this is the same day he interviewed JD Vance. Yeah, the task force is kicking off. Finally going to get to the bottom of that fraud problem we have in this country. Can't wait to see the solutions they come up with.
Did you see that Benny Johnson and Nick Shirley were doing like the Titanic thing in one of these pictures? And I tried to discover whether it was a real picture. I don't know whether it's real or not, but they look like they are just really good pals.
think you're talking about this picture.
I am talking about that. Well, I don't know what that video is on the side, but
Yeah, I think that's totally real, but both of them probably. Yeah, man.
thank goodness we're going to solve that fraud problem now that JD's on it.
Yeah, I somehow doubt that, but you never know. You never know. See what happens. But I hope they keep talking about all this fraud, but never actually fix any of it. And then people actually start, believing in this tax revolt situation, because I think that's something that can be truly and totally bipartisan. That's something everybody can get behind with all the issues going on. But anyway, let's play this clip about Ayatollah being gay, and then we'll play a clip from Mark Levin because he's kind of gay, and then we'll talk more about this Iran situation.
You kind of suggested that we'd knocked out Ayatollah Jr. Have we? And did the CIA tell you that Ayatollah Jr. is gay?
Well, they did say that, but I don't know if it was only them. I think a lot of people are saying that, which puts them off to a bad start in that particular country. I sort of have to smile to myself when I say I see people trying to defend the Palestinian regime for women for Palestine, but they kill women if you don't wear a certain if you don't wear a certain cloth all over your face, you have no chance of living. And, when I look at gays for Palestine, but they kill gays. They kill them instantly. They throw them off buildings. And I'm saying, who are the gays for Palestine? And they have a significant amount of gays for Palestine. Now, I think I did very well with the gay vote. Okay. I even played the gay national anthem as my walk-off. Okay. For my campaign. And I think it probably helped me, but I did great with no Republicans ever gotten the gay vote like I did. And I'm very proud of it. I think it's great. Perhaps it's because I'm from New York City. I don't know, but the gay national anthem was my walk-off, and I think it probably had. But think of it, gays for Palestine, but they kill gays in Palestine. So when they hear that, I think probably we can talk them out of it. It shouldn't be too hard.
Hi, Mr.
I mean, I just think that's so funny. Everything about that. He calls him gay, and then he's like, but gays love me. So, I mean, maybe that's how they're going to, frame the story of the negotiations. Trump was able to negotiate with Iran because of how much the gays love him or something. It's just so silly. But
also,
yeah, man.
Really that none of us had ever heard of this Ayatollah son as of 3 weeks ago. And now we know that he's impotent, gay, and doesn't have a leg, and is maybe the ruler of Iran, but also maybe not.
Have they actually said, do we know who they're even negotiating with?
Well, no. And that's what makes it even funnier when Trump says that he's negotiating with Iran. And then the media comes back and says, we talked to Iran's leaders and they said that Trump is not negotiating with them. It's like, well, wait, who are the leaders? Because if Trump's not telling us who he's talking to, well, how the hell can CNN find out?
Do you remember? It was a long time ago, and I don't remember this from because I was paying attention then, but I've heard this story many times. Like back when I think it was Osama bin Laden, the CIA and the military was trying to track him down, but CNN had a journalist go into his bunker and interview him while they were trying to track him down. Like, how is that possible? Like, how can CNN track him down, but not our own government? But this is very similar to that story.
Well,
but,
you need the content. And so that would suggest that the media outlet and the so-called terrorist are on the same side of the equation the entire time. And
the government probably too, who aren't actually trying to find him.
Yeah. Yeah. We should take the lesson from all of that.
Yeah. Okay. The biggest talk about the Iran war the last couple days now, and I'm sure you've seen this, is the rumors of boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it is kind of funny to watch the podcast wars handle this because the people that are no matter what, cheerlead for Trump are shifting goalposts. They're justifying things. They're basically just making shit up. The people that are always anti-Trump and have, rode his coattails and now subverting them, they're loving it. But everybody going at their throats. Mark Levin, I think in particular here, I don't know anybody who earnestly likes Mark Levin. Like, I've never met somebody who's like, yeah, I really like that guy. Trump keeps pushing him, though. And this is what he had to say today. And I'm just curious what you guys think of this. I'm going to speed it up to 125.
The president has to, people are bringing information to him, and he has to worry about all these things. Now, one other thing, troops on the ground. He said no troops on the ground. I don't remember that in any campaign speech either. But why would we need troops on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we wouldn't need 300,000 of them. It's this uranium, too. We've got to get the uranium. If it cannot be destroyed, if it cannot be altered, we got to get it. The reason I just said, you can make dirty bombs, and over time you can still make sophisticated missiles. So you need to get to the uranium. That's why I'm reading in the paper, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne, we're talking about these very special forces and the various military services and so forth. He's not talking about sending regular army and infantry in by the hundreds of thousands. The men he's talking about, the units he's talking about, they are specialized. And you know what else? I remember from my days in the Reagan administration. Many of them are trained for a moment like this to try and secure enriched uranium. Many have been trained for moments like this. I guess what I'm trying to say is we are in good hands. No, not with Allstate, but with President Trump, because he's a man with enormous intelligence, enormous common sense. He's not an ideologue. He doesn't run around with slogans. He's prudential. He looks at the facts, he looks at the challenge, and he's dealing with it now. You might say, but he's negotiating a peace deal. First of all, did you look at those 15 points that were in the media? You know what that was? That was unconditional surrender. The Iranians apparently said no. The president said, okay, who's up next?
Apparently, we got to go in and get the uranium that we destroyed back in June of 2025. But yeah, so the fact that Mark Levin is out there, Trump, I think he posted tonight, he's like, go watch Mark Levin, the mastermind or something. What did he say? What did he say? I'll find it.
The great one. Oh, the old great one.
Yeah, watch Mark Levin interview of brilliant Mark Thiessen tonight at 8. We'll discuss the importance of hitting Iran hard. And then you had RT, Russia Today, put out some letter that was apparently sent to Marine reserves. You know, stay prepared. We may need mass troops. I don't know if we're going to actually have boots on the ground. It does seem like things are shaping up that way. But either way, the fact that Mark Levin is trying to like justify this now, I mean, let's be real here, guys. Trump campaigned on no new wars. I mean, I feel like that encompasses no boots on the ground in new war. I mean, I just feel like that makes sense. But it's funny to see him like try to, you know, twist that logical pretzel that he got himself into. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. The next couple of weeks, I think, will be fascinating to watch and funny to watch if he does actually do some sort of boots on the ground. If a story about boots on the ground gets told to us, because everybody's going to lose their damn minds.
Yeah, he's preparing for that possibility, obviously. And I heard something, I think it was from Caroline Levitt talking yesterday and saying that the Defense Department, the Department of War, is just providing Trump all the possible options and setting up everything so that he can make his choices. And then whatever choice he makes, all the assets are in place to do what he needs to do. And I think that you can think of that in a narrative forward sense as well, forgetting about the military aspects, which we cannot possibly know. And people should really understand that and come to terms with that fact. But, you know, wherever the story has to go, he's going to be prepared to go that direction. And if they want to stick to this thing where that's the only way we're going to get the enriched uranium out, we definitely have to do that so that we know Iran can never have a magical bomb. We're going to hear the story about how we had to do that. And hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But I mean, the war is the same war that it's always been. If you look at this through good twin, evil twin, the same enemy is being fought in Ukraine and in Iran. You know, it is just that the global entity that we are trying to remove from our government right now. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. Well, what do you think Trump's endgame here is? Have you thought about that at all? Like where this Iran conflict actually resolves itself?
I mean, I'm in the exact same position I was on night one of this thing, which is that I think the point is to eliminate all of the justifications for forever war, take all those stories off the board. And, in the meantime, he's not going to be the one held responsible for it. We have total exposure of everybody who pretended to be on the right for all these many years. I mean, look at the coalition. We were told there was a MAGA coalition that came together in 2024, led primarily by Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, that they were behind Trump's ability to have this incredible win in the fake election of 2024 over a fake candidate who didn't have a campaign. I was thinking yesterday, remember how they told us that Kamala Harris was going to run a vibes-based campaign? Do you remember that at the beginning?
Do you remember
Go ahead.
The pictures that were coming out of her, like AI generated crowds and stuff of her at hangars and shit?
Yeah. And she would go just do her events as part of pop concerts and rock concerts that were already scheduled. Her biggest event was the one that she had Beyonce come to, and Beyonce didn't perform. I mean, the entire thing was a joke. And it was it was obviously a joke the entire time. She didn't win any nomination process. Not that any of that is any more valid, but they scheduled a debate between Trump and Biden before they were even the nominees of their party. Everything about that campaign was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I hope that we would recognize some of that at some point.
Yeah, but so what you said there, taking away the narrative for the reasons, right? The narrative reasons for all these forever wars. Is that even an actual possibility? Because they can always just come up with a boogeyman, reason to go fight the boogeyman, and why we need to fund other countries to fight that boogeyman, because that boogeyman could eventually get their hands on some dangerous weapon and use it against us here. I feel like that's so easy for them to create, and we so easily buy into that as a country that we're willing to just be like, okay, yes, let's do that. We better do that.
Well, yeah, and that's the key part there at the end. And that's the part that has to stop. If we didn't believe this shit, they wouldn't do it. They can't just keep doing this stuff if no one falls for it. They keep doing it because everyone falls for it. Like the trauma events in particular. If you can go as far with me as to engage the possibility that maybe some of these mass shootings and whatever, let's just use that as the example, but any of these examples of trauma events, that these are intel oriented, carried out by paramilitaries or cartel hitmen or whatever it might be. And then there is a government coordinated cover-up process, and then the media propagandizes the situation to have whatever narrative effect it chooses. Well, you can't keep pulling those off if each and every time one of them happens, everybody says, oh, look, another one of those paramilitary intel trauma events, rather than trying to engage with all the details and figure out the truth of what happened and spend 6 days analyzing the sound on some grainy security video that is the only evidence we have.
Yeah, but okay, so
the belief is, the point I'm making is that the belief is at the core of all of this. And these stories are told so that you can influence the collective consciousness. If it becomes impossible to influence the collective consciousness, then this is no longer the route by which you do that.
Yes, and I agree with what you're saying, but then it brings me to the method Trump is using, because if I were trying to get people to if you want to get us out of these or take away the narrative reason for these forever wars, and the way to do that is to actually just get people to stop believing it, wouldn't you? I guess I don't know. I think I would try to either do something that makes it unbelievable, which I haven't necessarily seen yet. I see everybody online believing this shit.
Yes.
I mean, there's very few people that are recognizing this stuff as actually unbelievable, or you expose it as bullshit and just not do it. You know what I mean? I feel like there's other methods than going through the narrative motion and fighting the conflict and doing the things and pissing everybody off and putting the videos of bombings out there and all these different things. If this is the method we're doing, there's got to be an end game here where it gets people to that point of, okay, well, maybe this whole thing was bullshit then. That's got to be the end game.
Well, people definitely have to be able to get to these places themselves. And, if they're not going to be able to do that, then there's nothing that we can do for those people ultimately. I would suggest that Trump has done plenty of things to make this situation seem unbelievable, and people just aren't refusing to believe it because they are so they can't. And listen, I get that this stuff is I operate in a different paradigm, okay?
Yeah.
And I understand that a lot of our audience does not operate in that paradigm. And so when I am speaking and analyzing from that paradigm, a lot of people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And I get it. I get it that we were conditioned into this other paradigm. People don't believe it's possible that the entire corporate media could just be bullshitting them about major things, and that Trump could just be going along with those stories because he has no choice, because everybody out there believes that what the news is saying is true. And we saw that in COVID, for instance. I've used this example before. Trump said the thing was a hoax, and people were like, you are not trusting the science. We know because everybody is telling us. We see the counters on TV. We see the mask requirements down at the store. We know this thing is real. But no, you don't. Like, we are having, they have all the resources, all the connections, all the power to show us whatever they want to show us. And the idea that they are not, like, however much effort they expend on that they're not getting back more power and more money and more control when they do that, that justifies the expenditure and the effort and the rest of it, that seems crazy to me. But look at this. I mean, if we get shown this, and people believe that this is the last flight out of Kabul, what are they supposed to do? Like, how silly can they make it? And if a figure like Trump were to come out and say, hey guys, look, we're showing you all this ridiculous bullshit so that wars can be staged and that fake events can happen even in real wars, but that it's also entirely possible that we can stage a war on television and have everyone in the world believe it, as, by the way, he said in no uncertain terms 10 days ago. If people aren't going to at least engage the possibility that some of this shit just ain't true, and what we're actually doing is watching the TV and allowing it to convince us that we are justified in supporting, like, the mass murder of tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of miles away, well, we're not going to get there like that.
Yeah. JK Giggle Low in the chat says wag the dog.
Yeah.
There's a great comment in here earlier I wanted to read too, and then I missed it. Damn it. But no, you're right. And this is the conversation that we've had time and time again. I feel like it's like a monthly conversation where it's like, well, if people would just stop believing the things on the TV, maybe we'd make some progress. And the next thing happens. And this is why it's like so hard in the information war to actually make any progress, because every time it seems like we're on the cusp of some sort of breakthrough with a psyop, or maybe it's even, we've gotten to the conclusion of a psyop and we all got to the point we needed to get to. We're like, oh, that was bullshit. We won this psyop. The next psyop comes and we just take it hook, line, and sinker because everything's so emotional, everything's so reactive on social media, and we never actually make any progress. It's why the election conversation that we keep having, it feels so redundant and retarded, because we've been having the same conversation over and over again, even though we got to the point last time. It's like, okay, well, this time, we finally figured it out. This will be the last time we deal with these elections. And now we all know they're fake, and we have to, accept that and get to the next phase. But then the next midterms come up and it's like, okay, well, we better not have that discussion until after these midterms. Now we got to push that on. We never actually learn our lesson. And I don't know how we advance beyond it when that's the case.
I mean, I think that at some point people are just going to have enough of the media thing, and maybe some of that's happening. You really don't think so? Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
because we've been saying that for like so long.
Well, now you see them just all right out there. The Megyn Kelly and Mark Levin thing. Dan Bongino was like fighting Tucker Carlson and Joe Kent. All of this is just such nonsense.
And General Flynn.
Yeah.
Ivan Raiklin. Yeah, all the people.
Yeah, and I mean, isn't Cash's girlfriend going after General Flynn now? I mean, everyone is becoming discombobulated. At some point, it might make sense to stop listening to all these people.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. That's like what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't matter how this goes. I think the fighting just, it further entrenches people into the camps on each side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when people get so defensive and then, so then they super hate other people and then they can't go engage with that content. It's actually just solidifying the factions everywhere. Instead of getting people to stop watching it, they're getting more solidified in the faction that they're in.
I saw something interesting tonight, and I think maybe this is where it's going. And I saw it, I think, from one of the TPUSA guys, that Tyler guy, and from Megyn Kelly. And they're talking about how all these factions are splitting apart and they need to come back together. But it seems like the commonality between all these factions splitting apart in this MAGA civil war is that they are all going anti-Trump. And so the idea is that all of these individual factions are at war with this amorphous MAGA by fighting each other, even though A, none of them are MAGA, and B, all of them are going anti-Trump. And so if they can then project to everybody that what we really need is unity in order to win the midterms, and then bring all these factions back together, and so they can focus on Republicans winning the midterms. Well, you know what's not part of that? Trump. And that's exactly the op I've been describing for well over 4 years that started, that became visible just before the start of the Ron DeSantis thing, but it should be obvious to everyone at this point that none of these people were actually invested in understanding what the greater Trump project was. They just think it's going to be a function of Republican government, that all of these problems get solved, and Trump was the vehicle to bring them to power.
Is this what you're talking about? He had a couple posts, Tyler Bowyer. He said, keep MAGA together, give Maha the due love and attention, get out of Iran fast, reject the uniparty, inject positivity into the movement. They say reject the uniparty, but then they'll say go vote Republican. It's retarded. This Jack Posobiec had a little unity thing. Play this quick.
There's this narrative that's been going on in the media, and I see it online, and I spend way too much time online, as I'm sure many of us can attest, about division and discord, friction in the MAGA movement, and friction online, and friction among Trump supporters.
He's stealing our fucking line. What is this?
Poso always steals our shit.
This fucker.
Supporters and all of this.
I love him.
This happened before Charlie's murder. Now I see people trying to invoke Charlie's legacy to push their own agendas. And I got to tell you, folks, I'm sick of it. I'm frustrated by it, and it needs to stop. Stop using Charlie Kirk's legacy to push your own agenda. But I will tell you one thing that gives me hope is coming here at CPAC and coming here and standing with all of you good people, with all of you great Americans. I don't see that division. I see unity. I see unity of purpose. I see unity of a coalition. I see unity of Americans, and even unity of people from all around the country that are or all around the world that are joining us here today, because they fight for the same things that Charlie Kirk stood for. Charlie Kirk's legacy, faith, family, freedom. That was the Charlie Kirk agenda, and that is what Charlie Kirk's legacy ought to be.
It's kind of weird how he's like, people need to stop invoking Charlie Kirk to push an agenda, and then he goes right into Charlie Kirk believed in these things, and that's what we need to be doing. Like he does the same thing he just decried a second prior.
Yeah, well, I mean, that op is going to pay dividends throughout the rest of the year. The Charlie Kirk thing. The
unity push, though, all the infighting. I mean, the unity push for the midterms is bound to come.
Of course. Yeah, I think you're already seeing it.
Yeah.
The idea is always split Trump supporters off from Trump and then redirect them back toward the establishment. And all of these factions can do it in their specific branded ways, right? Nick Fuentes is speaking to different people than Mark Levin is speaking to. Megyn Kelly is speaking to different people than Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and Dan Bongino, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you go down through all these people. Joe Rogan and Dave Smith were out there talking about how bad Trump is now. You know, you get it from all those angles. And in 2024, all these people were our new best friends, and you couldn't say anything bad about them. Otherwise, you were harming unity and making it possible that maybe Trump was going to lose because Republicans wouldn't come together. And if you said something bad about Megyn Kelly or Tucker Carlson, well, someone might stay home and not vote. And then Trump was going to lose. And this is why they do those things. They made everybody understand, hey, we're MAGA now. We're all MAGA. They all put their little hats on, and they joined MAGA for 6 months or a year and a half until the news started getting not so good, and now they're totally out of it. And by the way, they're the people who make the news. So the news can be not good whenever they choose.
Such a good point. Do you think they're actually going to turn on him after the midterms?
I think it's already, I mean, man, I think they've already turned on Trump. And so
Sure.
if we legitimize these elections that are coming up, most particularly by supporting the SAVE Act, and those don't go the way we think they're going to go, which is like Republicans saving the country, they're going to do the impeachment thing. And the way that their fake impeachment could become a real impeachment is if most of America goes along with it. You want to see that happen, keep supporting fake elections.
And these fake opping podcasters, because that's what I see happening. Like how the midterms are, we're bound to lose those things, guys. Like unless we fix elections, we're not going to win those things. Then everybody's going to blame Trump for that. And then they're going to support the impeachment of it. All these people. It's going to be insanity. It'd be entertaining insanity, but still insanity. Anyway, anything else on this that you want to get to? Otherwise, there's a bunch of other things we could talk about.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think it's a function of the Twitter algorithm that this stuff is happening, that it seems popular, that it seems like the most important thing going on. What's happening right now reminds me of the Access Hollywood moment and however many other of these moments we had and I wasn't even a Trump supporter at that time, but in the first campaign and during the first term, where Trump would do something, all of the establishment would think this is the silver bullet that is finally going to take down Trump. And the Republican side of the Uniparty will handle it very delicately and say that they just have a principled disagreement with Trump. They know he's good for a lot of things, but not this, this, and this. And maybe now it's time to just start looking ahead to whoever's next. And of course, we got that all through the 2022, 2023, leading up to the fake primaries for that election with the anti-Trump op based on the vaccine and some of the other stuff. This is just another one of those moments. All of these people will declare their allegiances and think that they're just going to move on in this new direction. And then Trump will be resurgent at some point. All these people will be like, oh man, I guess we got to give him one more chance. And we'll be like, oh yeah, thanks. It's so good to have you guys back. I knew we were all best friends the whole time.
Part of this op too, if you're going to impeach Trump, you got to make sure that everybody wants the replacement for him. And they've been pushing this JD Vance op with the peace thing. Vance's greatest challenge, making peace with Iran.
Isn't that amazing?
It's retarded. We called this the night that we went to war. I'm pretty sure that one Saturday episode a few weeks back. Vice President JD Vance is preparing to take on the most important assignment of his career. And no, it's not the fraud task force, even though you might think that's it. It's steering U.S. efforts to end a war he'd been concerned about waging in the first place. Why it matters, Vance has already had multiple calls with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He met Gulf allies about the war and been involved in indirect communications with Iranians. He's expected to be the top U.S. negotiator in potential peace talks. Why is that? Why is he expected to be that? Is it just because that's what the media has been saying he's going to be?
Well, they're saying that needs to happen because, and the way it's being framed is that Witkoff and Kushner are actually on the side of the Zionists. So we need to get Vance in there to represent the pure American interests because Vance is separating himself from Trump. And that's what the BB call is about.
Yeah, I think this is interesting too here. Vance's seniority in the administration and his well-documented opposition to open-ended conflicts overseas. I mean, Trump has a pretty well-documented opposition to open-ended conflicts overseas, and he's the actual president. White House officials say make him a more attractive interlocutor for the Iranians than Witkoff and Kushner, who oversaw the previous rounds of failed talks. So ridiculous. I wonder if we're going to actually see JD Vance go over there. Because if this is the op they're pushing, Trump at some point is going to have to derail this op, you would think. Like, I doubt he would let Vance have the win with this, right?
You cannot imagine a situation where that happens. But it's funny, the other day in the Oval Office, I think it was during the Markwayne Mullin. In fact, maybe I can find this here. There were a couple of funny moments of that press conference, by the way. But the relevant point here is that he was asked if JD Vance was going to be leading the peace talks. And Trump was like, I'm leading the peace talks. And JD Vance is going to be in it, and Marco and Jared and Steve Witkoff. But he made it clear that, like, there was no, like, JD Vance is leading these talks. Let me see if I can find it in the transcript from that.
When was this?
I don't know, Wednesday or Tuesday.
And Trump said that? I wonder if I can find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second. Shit. It could possibly be from his event the next day in there. Let me see if I can find, I didn't find it on Vance, but maybe I can. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. I think that this will work if we start right here. I'm sharing this right now.
Okay.
Weird. What's that?
Use that to weaponize government. So I'm not thrilled, but I'll also go along with two groups of people, the military, and I think the military likes it, right? And I'll go along with the senators. I'm fine, but I was a big victim of it. Yeah, please.
Are you going to send Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to do direct negotiations with the Iranians?
Yeah, well, we're in negotiations, as it turned out, and now you've seen what I said yesterday was exactly correct. We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it, and the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. And who wouldn't if you were there? Look, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the anti-aircraft is gone. Most of their missiles are gone. We either shot them or they shot them and don't have them anymore. They're down to a trickle. They're pretty much everything they have is gone. I don't know. Can you name one thing that's not gone? Or
did I get this transcript part wrong? Let me just check this. Maybe I scrolled back too far. Yeah, I mean, I think we heard this.
They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it. And the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal.
Maybe there's one later.
And who wouldn't if you were there? Look.
Oh, here it is.
Well, he's involved in them. JD is involved, and Marco's involved, and Jared Kushner's involved, very smart guy, and Steve Witkoff, smart guy, is involved. And I'm involved. I'm involved. Why? I'm going to be so big. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm the president of the United States, Tom, and I'm not going to talk about it. It's beneath me to talk about saving millions of lives, because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about saving millions.
So, I mean, they ask him if JD Vance is going to lead the negotiations. He says all these guys are in the negotiations, and then he says, and I'm in the negotiations. What am I, too big to be involved in these negotiations? Like, I'm going to delegate that to my underlings?
Yeah, but the media wants it to be, they want to give JD Vance the win in this. Trump's not going to let that happen. That's why it's just going to be so interesting to see how this plays out, how it resolves itself, whether we get the boots on the ground or not. I don't know. But it's just going to be fun to watch this play out and see how the media spins it and how Trump spins it the other way and takes the narrative sales away from them. It'll just be fun. But this is an interesting thing in line with the war story. We talked about this or mentioned it on Wednesday, but I think this is a pretty big deal, pretty significant story here. You had sent it in our little group chat on Wednesday to me and Bernie Bright. Allies in Congress are about to lose a key window into U.S. military plans. Pentagon's decision to not release a global posture review follows the go-it-alone pattern of the Trump administration. And I'm not going to read the whole story, but traditionally, the administration will give to both Congress and its allies, which in this story they're calling NATO, the global posture review, which is where all their troops are across the globe and what their military priorities are and all these things, and where they plan to station their troops and assets and whatnot. They're not going to be doing that now. And the Politico is framing this as if like NATO and Congress are freaking out. And what this tells me is that what Politico calls our allies is not in line with what the Trump administration calls their allies, and that includes Congress.
Yeah, he's gone off about NATO a couple times in these Q&A sessions that he's been doing pretty frequently about the Iran war. He's talked about how they are not showing up, and it's kind of, I think that we're seeing the hints of stuff that we've talked about for years now, but really getting close to the point where NATO just is a defunct organization. Why would we be sharing our military posture with our European allies at all times? And I think that it's funny that Trump's cutting out the Congress from this, because it's just another sign that the Congress has no role and is totally illegitimate. And I know that people get upset because that's not the constitutional process, generally speaking. But as I've said for a long time, we're not under the constitutional process, and we haven't been for a long time. To the extent that Trump is abiding by that, it's dealing with legitimate parts of the government, of which the House and Senate right now are not. I mean, if institutions in the government are captured by this global entity that is the enemy, are you really going to include them as though they were perfectly legitimate, properly elected organizations and bodies? I think the answer has to be no.
Absolutely not. And Trump even kind of mentioned this, I think this was yesterday.
But I have great respect for him as a leader. And we had a deal. I was going there and I didn't want to go during the war. I said, look, we have a thing called a war, or as they would rather say, a military operation. This is for legal reasons. I say military because as a military operation, I don't need any approvals. As a war, you're supposed to get approval from Congress, something like that. So I call it a military operation, but we have that going along, and I'd like to delay it. So we delayed it a few weeks, so I'll be going very shortly.
I just think it's funny. He basically says, I'm calling it a military operation, even though he called it a war at the same time, but just so that he doesn't have to involve Congress in it, which is funny. And, in terms of devolution, we've always speculated. We never really knew for sure, like how Trump implemented this, and if he did it in a way where he did let, the Gang of Eight know or something. I've never gotten on the board with that, because I've always thought Congress was part of the problem and part of the enemy. And if there was election theft, which we know there is, then they're illegitimate, right? But this is kind of in line with that rhetoric. Like, if Trump wanted to do something and not include Congress, he has the ability, and he can do it in a way where I think he could get away with doing it if it got in front of the Supreme Court too,
Oh, for sure.
And this is in line with that. I forgot to show this earlier, but I want to play that the clip from CPAC of RFK. This is a great clip.
He has encyclopedic molecular knowledge on this wide range of very, very eclectic interests: music, Broadway shows, pro wrestling, football, every sport, golf, and business and Wall Street. He knows how everybody made their money and what deals they made. And he tells stories all the time about it. It's just one after the other. And one time during the campaign, I was on the airplane with him, and we were sitting across the table from each other, eating McDonald's, drinking Diet Coke. And we started talking about Syria, and he got a placemat, and he turned it on its back, and then he took a Sharpie and he drew a perfect map of the Mideast. And then he put the troop strength of every country on every border on that map. And it just, it challenged a lot of the assumptions that I had been told about him. He has, he has this extraordinary depth of knowledge about what's happening in each one of the agencies. my agency and the others, and you know, and then he has an instinct for making good choices.
Well, I have to say that.
And I would say this. I think, you know, I think my uncle, John Kennedy, understood the use of power better than any president who's preceded him. I think Donald Trump understands the use of power better than probably any president that we've had, at least since Roosevelt and maybe in American history.
Interesting story. A lot of people on the left and the people that are trying to like opt Trump and divide the movement are being like, if you believe this story about Trump and what he knows, you're retarded. I totally believe it, actually.
Yeah, I totally believe it too. And it's funny that it's coming from RFK Jr. because, of course, the MAGA coalition is one of those elements of the coalition in 2024. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't good and faithful MAGA people who are genuine Trump supporters. I'm just saying that that was a major social media op that a lot of people connected to from a lot of different walks of life. And that's wonderful that they opened their minds to a different political option than they had previously been open to, but they aren't actually part of the MAGA coalition in general.
No. And one of the things about this story too is, and I've seen some people like Ezra Cohen-Wannick and people in this over Josh Steinman saying like, I've worked for Trump. I've said this before. Trump is smarter than you. But this is kind of one of the brilliant things that Trump does with that caricature of himself that he portrays to the media, that everybody wants to be like, man, this guy is just, he's ridiculous. He's so stupid. But that's not true at all. He's like, he does that on purpose to get the media to go all in against him. But he's doing it on purpose because he's actually really, really smart. He's the complete opposite of what he portrays himself as sometimes. But you get glimpses now and then, and stories like that from RFK are just, I love that stuff, behind the scenes stuff.
He's doing a mutilization to his own actual the image of his intelligence.
Dude, I forgot to play that video from last week. I should find it quick. That was so funny. For those who watched last week, I'll just play the clip. Here we go.
Well, hold on. He keeps messing up another thing too, which is when he makes the post about the Save America Act, he's been writing mutilization instead of mutilation. Yeah.
Really?
There's like, 2 or 3 times now. Mutilization. And he'll go back and forth between mutilization and mutilation.
Yeah, maybe. He hasn't mentioned the discombobulator one single time either so far at this conference.
Up. Yeah, I hope.
Disappointing.
Yeah. Maybe we'll never hear about it again. I don't know.
That'd be sad.
Maybe we flew a little too close to the sun with the discombobulator.
Maybe.
The next day.
But that's an ongoing process. They're meeting today again. But we must fund TSA now.
He's been writing mutilization instead of mutilation. Yeah.
Well, so we got 2, which I think we're now calling these Badlands boops. Is that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's like a Badlands proof, right?
Yeah. But we're calling Badlands boops.
Yeah.
It's a little boop. We got 2 of those right after last week's episode. The very next day, we got both the discombobulator and the mutilization, which is hysterical. So
he also, he did mutilization a couple of times at one of the speeches this week. And I'm going to try to locate it. I can't remember where I watched it. Maybe it was the Markwayne Mullin thing. And then he always says transgender for everyone. And I think that's such a funny way of saying. I don't know exactly what he means. I assume that he means the availability for everyone to get transgender surgery, including children. I think that's what he's saying, but he says transgender for everyone.
I think this is the Markwayne thing. I think this is where he says it.
Yeah, it's at 16 minutes, I think. Is that where you're looking?
SAVE Act is not called this. It's called the Save America Act. There's a big difference because the SAVE Act, nobody knows what that means. Save America means Save America.
And I can't speak for him, but I would imagine that Markwayne, I didn't even ask him the question because who wouldn't support it? Voter ID with a picture. You want citizenship, proof of citizenship. Ideally, you want to end mail-in ballots because there's tremendous corruption. Then we added a couple of things, Markwayne, like I don't think being a great athlete and having a family of great athletes, they have produced great athletes in this family, all-American wrestlers. They especially like wrestling, by the way. And what about baseball? Do you play baseball? Anything? They like wrestling. But I don't think that you would say that his family, and I don't know this for a fact, and I shouldn't say it because I could get myself. Does anybody in your family want men to play in women's sports? I don't think so, Jim, right? I don't think so. I don't think. How would they do? Would they do good wrestling you? They would be in trouble? He said, yes, they'd be in big trouble. It's so crazy. So that would be one. And then we have a few others that we call them the best of Trump. But if you look at transgender mutilization of children, we don't want that. It's the mutilization of children. We don't want that. So generally speaking, I think I can answer that Markwayne would be very much in favor of what I'm in favor of. Would you say that's right, Mark? I can't think of too many things. He might be worse. He might be worse than me. That's my look at his wife is saying. That's right. But so yeah, he's going to be great. Yeah.
So funny. He's sitting there talking for Markwayne Mullin, and Markwayne's like right next to him.
There's also when he's introducing him, he sounds like he has absolutely no idea who Markwayne Mullin is, and he's just like reading the thing that he was given, like the Markwayne Mullin bio. Here it is. And maybe I'm crazy, but that's how I heard it.
Well, let's watch it.
Let me see if I'll just speed this up a little bit.
For 13 years, Markwayne has represented the incredible state of Oklahoma, a state that I won 77 out of 77 counties 3 times in a row. So they like me there. Second was Ronald Reagan at 56. Did you know that? 56. That's not bad. But 77, it's 77 out of 77, I think, right? That's not bad. But he was there in Congress as a member of the House and then as an outstanding United States Senator. And he really has been outstanding. He's been a close and vital partner in helping us secure the border, stop migrant crime, end the scourge of illegal drugs, and make America safe again and make America great again. And he's a tremendous player. He worked with Tom Homan, worked with all of our people on the right and many more. And everything he's done has been good. I say everything he touched, he's turned to gold. Now, but even in business, he was successful in all fairness. He was successful. He said, I want to go into politics. I hope you're happy. But as the only Native American, I didn't know that, huh? Well, I think that's all right. He's got great quality, I can tell you. He's the only Native American in the Senate. How many have been there before you? Do you know? Native American? 3. Well, you're a fantastic representative. Markwayne has also been a fantastic advocate for our cherished tribal communities. He's now the first member of the Cherokee Nation ever to serve as a member of the cabinet. I didn't know all these things. I would have picked him faster if I had known. I would have made a quicker decision.
That's so funny. He's like, it's like the clip you're telling me for the first time. Like he's doing that in real time as he's reading the bio.
Yeah. And this is the sort of thing that I was pointing out back when he was choosing the fantasy team. And people were like, you don't think Trump has spent his time figuring out exactly who these people are and knows that they're the best people for the job? No, I don't think that that's what's going on.
No, absolutely not. This was him that entire reading.
Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time.
So funny. He doesn't look like Native American, not to, judge a book by its cover, but I'm surprised he didn't bring up Pocahontas when he said that, though. That would have been a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
He didn't do so.
Well,
bummer. Is what it is. I guess take what you can get. A couple more things here. If I can find, I gotta go through my tabs. So many tabs open right now. Did we go? We did not go through everything, did we?
I don't know. I'm looking back through what we had been posting to each other throughout the week.
I mean, I thought this was a pretty interesting story. The federal judge telling the Pentagon it doesn't get to decide who is a critical supply chain risk. I mean, that seems a little, silly may not be the right word, but it's probably the one I'm going to use. It seems a little silly.
Yes.
But very much in line with what federal judges across the country have been doing over and over again with the Trump agenda, interrupting everything.
Yeah, I haven't followed that story too closely, but the things that I hear are interesting. I don't have anything to contribute.
Yeah, the Anthropic story, it's just a weird one in general because they were negotiating, right? Or they had them signed up, and then Anthropic supposedly didn't want the U.S. government to be using their AI in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government's like, okay, well, you're a supply chain risk now. Like, you can't tell us what to do. Who knows, whatever other issues. They're still negotiating all in the background. We're told, like, they still might end up being a thing. I think it's stupid because there's no way that the military didn't already like take their entire program, copy it, and use it. Even whether they pay Anthropic or not, we're going to be using their AI model if that's the best one the military wants, whatever. But the federal judge coming in and like telling the government that they can't do this thing when it's a matter of national security, especially, like, just, I don't know, it seems extra silly. It's a little over the top, even for what we've seen this last year and a half.
I was reading an article in the Financial Times today that was about the data centers and the huge investments in these data centers and whether any of this was ever going to come to be, or if it was going to be one of those things where the investors went in heavy at the beginning, the projects never really turned out, and instead people ended up losing trillions of dollars. And one of the interesting things in there was that I guess there's an open AI promise where if one of the other companies gets closer to artificial general intelligence, then they'll stop what they're doing and get behind it, something along those lines. And I could go back and look at it again, but I just thought, and this is in line with what you were just talking about, the Defense Department or the Department of War, you would think that because of the hand that organizations like DARPA or In-Q-Tel or whatever, all of these associated various kind of elements of the tech farm, because the hands that they've had in all these projects for the last at least 20 years, but really much, much longer, you would have to think that they would have access to whatever the leading thing was, right? And that we wouldn't have access to that. And however far along that is, we are getting some story that sells it well short of where it is. And so I don't know, just something about all the AIs operating in kind of similar ways, and then they would be applied for similar purposes. I just feel like we already have something that is all of those things combined already. And so some of this just seems like cover stories on these different brands setting up how all of this is going to end up. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it did. It makes another interesting point, though, or at least a thought that came to mind. Why the big data center push, and why do we need like so much data center if they already have this technology and they haven't needed the data centers in the past, right? Because if we're right about the military having more advanced technology than we have publicly available, some people say by the tune of like 20, 30, 40 years, like we have no idea how far advanced their technology is and how long the delay is before we actually see the commercial version of it. Where's the data center stuff for the AI prior to now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The very end of the article, actually, let me pull it up. The very end was really interesting, considering some of the options we've talked about with decentralization.
This can't be the right article, is it? Both Iran and the U.S. need the war to stop now.
Oh no, this is another one. This talks about how parts of the war are just like narrative plays, and I thought that would be just fun to take a quick look at. But let me stop that and pull this up for a second, and then we can come back to that if you feel like it. Okay. So he's talking about how Apple, for instance, and Facebook Meta, to some large degree, they're not building their own data centers. Apple's going to incorporate other outside AIs into its intelligence. Facebook Meta is going to essentially be renting their data center space. And then it talks about how, I'll just read this. Moreover, all that AI has to be used somewhere, and Apple still has an advantage when it comes to the computing devices on which hundreds of millions of users actually interact with large language models. So the point there is Apple doesn't need its own LLM. It doesn't need its own AI. It produces the devices that other people's AIs will live on. And they go on. That is not just phones. The launch late last year of OpenClaw, a customizable AI personal assistant that can run on a home computer, led to a rush of armchair tech buffs buying Apple's dependable, user-friendly Mac Minis. That speaks to another unknown that might work in Apple's favor, the growing move toward edge AI, or models run on local devices. While Zuckerberg, Altman, and peers drive toward godlike AI that sits in the cloud, many users may find their needs met by simpler models that reside on their laptop or phone, barely touching a data center at all. If that's the future, sitting out big tech's generational spree could be a smart move. And all that makes me think is that this massive AI spending, where he brings these people into the White House for their little humiliation rituals, where he announces to the country that these people are going to spend $500 billion in the United States of America building these things, that just sounds like drainage to me, that money is going to just go up in smoke because it has to. And we're going to go in the direction of decentralization. And hopefully that's the case.
I've seen a lot about that whole Apple Mini thing, like the cloud and the OpenClaw, like getting your own little assistant. I've almost wanted to like try it and see, I don't know, like see what it's all about, see what kind of like I don't know what kind of assistant work I don't know, maybe you can go through my emails, do my legal work for me or something. But it's an interesting thought. But so what it's saying though is that approach gets rid of the actual need for the data centers, which all this investment is coming into.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
And yeah, man, that the data center issue is so interesting, especially because, a lot of communities around the country are fighting back against having them installed where they live because of environmental concerns, because of kind of not in my backyard stuff.
Electricity costs.
They don't want to see it. Yeah. Well, I mean, theoretically, at least they're supposed to return electricity back to the grid. And, then we've talked many times about the possibility that some of these might end up being used more as like the infrastructure of software. Yeah. Bitcoin mining and the rest of it. So, yeah,
that's what I was just, that was going to be my next comment was, if it's not the data center thing, if it's more so implementing Gtopia and data center shit there, maybe that's where Trump is derailing it to. He's drafting off the data center push right now, and then he'll reroute it. That's interesting. But I honestly haven't like paid a whole lot of time. I've seen the stories come out, like there's a couple months in a row where almost every single day there was a story where one company was laying off a bunch of people, another company was implementing a bunch of AI bots, another company was huge investment into a data center thing, and it was just like the same 6 stories, and then every week the different company would rotate to the next story, and so they were just all doing it on this rotation, hiring people, implementing AI robot stuff, building new data centers, new investment, bringing jobs. Like it was over and over again. And I don't know, just to see where it's going is going to be what's interesting from Trump. Again, all this stuff, like however it's tying together. I had a message from somebody today. This goes back to the Iran war. He's a guy. He's in like the investment world. I think he's not an investment banker. He might be a financial advisor or something. But he told me, and I meant to bring this up earlier, but he said the only thing that could stop boots on the ground. Sorry, I just got to open my message from him. Was 10-year Treasury getting over 4.7%. That would destroy the economy if it gets that high. So sorry, that was totally out of left field. I just thought of it.
Yeah. I sure don't know if that's the case, but we're going to see. I mean, got to remember, as we talked about at the beginning, we're still in the midst of that whole Great Reset. And the Great Reset idea is that they want to switch everything over. The way they're going to go about doing that is they're going to bottom everything out so that everybody begs for the replacement. And the bottoming out is what we're witnessing. It's possible that some of that was alleviated in kind of stepwise bottoming out rather than in, the bottom just falling out and everything collapsing at once. And I would suggest that that's what 2020 was.
Yeah. I think I'm out of stories, man, unless there's anything else.
Well,
Unless
I
you
put
wanna
that,
watch
I
Sync
put
Uyghur.
that, I put this back up here. We can just go through this quick. This is one of the one of CNN's like main geopolitical writers, Nick Walsh. Both Iran and the U.S. need the war to stop now, but neither can blink. And so there were just a few lines in this that caught my eye about the narrative stuff.
When did this come out? What?
This was, oh man,
50 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, the 27th of March. Yeah, the 27th.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So this reminded me of the discombobulator. Trump's diplomatic approach is chaotic and relies on forging a reality that may or may not actually gain traction with the facts on the ground. But the current leadership vacuum inside Tehran helps. Iran does not speak with a singular public voice, allowing Trump to try and speak for it. Iranian state media seem to reject a reported U.S. 15-point proposal that the White House later added was not entirely accurate. Given we do not publicly know what the United States' true red lines or demands are, or what Iran is willing to concede privately, Trump can pluck ideas from the ether and construct a diplomatic triumph of his own liking. Okay. So if I said that on this show, people would tell me I'm crazy. Now CNN is figuring it out. And then just down to the end here, Trump preferred Thursday to speak of the war in the past tense as quote unquote, not the big one. He prefers to call it an operation. He has long searched for an off-ramp while polishing his veneer of invincibility and military might, but his reality mirrors that of Tehran. Neither can blink first nor hide the damage this month of violence has done to it and its allies. Both sides need this to stop, and the seminal role of information plays in warfare, tightly policed, the propaganda stakes fought over as much today as land and concrete itself, helps both sides define the reality in which they make a deal. Trump is little bothered by the constraints reality places on what he declares. It is unlikely that will change in the fog of his first war, where arguably truth was never enough of a consideration to be the first casualty. Diplomacy doesn't have to yield absolute victory or unconditional surrender, just enough of a slowdown to let the avaricious news cycle move on.
That's interesting. They're talking about information warfare.
That is a case that the narrative is the only thing in the situation that matters. It is also the only thing that is knowable. So to us, it is the only thing that can matter because it's all we have to go on. And yeah, I mean,
it's just
can
weird.
Call it crazy for as long as they like, but the method has worked now for years, and it's getting just a little annoying to keep, as we are in the chat tonight, being called like people reading a script from CIA handlers. I do 4-hour-long shows spontaneously. Like the idea that I'm reading a script is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Somebody in the chat said that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's retarded. They clearly have not watched. It's probably a new account. They clearly have not watched any of our content because if they did, they know how retarded we are most of the time and how we don't. Yeah,
it's people grasping for explanations because they don't understand a different viewpoint, and that viewpoint feels so immediately threatening. Ask yourself, people, why the viewpoint feels threatening when a handful of people in the entire world are stating it. Okay, like you're scared that a few people have a dissenting viewpoint. If that's the case, you should wonder why that viewpoint feels so powerful and dangerous to you. Maybe it's because it's correct and yours is wrong. Just saying.
Also, Chris, and you know this, it's very likely that the people that come in and say shit like that, a lot of the bots and trolls we know for sure are some of our haters and people who've been doing it for literally like years now, coming into the chat. Sometimes they come in under their own username. They've done that in the past and threatened to, take me out in a boat and put me in the ocean or whatever. But most of the time they come in under bots, and they do that on purpose, intentionally try to derail the show and say stupid, retarded shit about our content, assuming views about our content, which we don't have. and clearly shown they've never actually watched our content, and they're only doing it to be divisive and try to derail us. So retarded.
And it is intentional. And I've started thinking about it like kind of in parallel to a comedy club. I don't know if you've ever gone to a live comedy club, but the idea is that the comedian is on stage and talking, and the people in the audience do not talk to each other about other things because it distracts everybody from what's on stage. And that is a consistent social media strategy to invade live chats and do exactly that. Like say hello individually to every person in the live chat, and then start conversations about their families, and then start conversations about stuff you were watching on television, and start all these sidebar conversations so that no one is actually engaging with the content because they're too busy fielding messages from internet strangers.
Yeah. And then sometimes they just talk shit.
Yeah.
But the one comment I was going to make about that story though is the fact that they're talking now about like narrative warfare, information war. I don't know why, but that it almost makes me feel, I don't want to say uncomfortable, like, but why? Like, why now are they all of a sudden talking about information war? We've been talking about this shit for years, and they're all of a sudden CNN is talking about information and its role in warfare. Like that's weird to me. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Anyway, man, how about we get some boosts and rants, and then do you have an outro video? Did you send me one?
Well, we can do that one JD thing. Oh, I think we should do the 80s version of Nirvana. Did you listen to that?
I haven't. I did not listen to that.
It's so good.
Okay, send that. Do you want to send that in the chat, and I'll pull that up. Let's do this first. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do a quick Rumble Studio ad, and then we'll do the boosts and rants. So if you guys got any, get those in. Rumble Wallet, guys. If you haven't yet, I would highly encourage you to download the Rumble Wallet. You can do it in the App Store on your phone, or you can go to wallet.rumble.com. There is no better way to support the creators, your favorite creators on Rumble. Rumble has constantly been trying to, innovate and create new ways to support people. We've been here with them for, over 4 years now. And they are, I can't think of a company that does a better job trying to advocate for the creators. And this is one of the ways they've done that. YouTube, Twitch, even the Rumble Rant, they take a percentage of what you donate. YouTube can take up to 50%. Same with Twitch. Rumble Rants, I think it's 20%. With the Rumble Wallet, you can donate Bitcoin, you can donate Tether USD, you can even donate Tether Gold stablecoins. Nearly 100% of what you give will go to the creator directly. And again, like I said, all you need to do is download the Rumble Wallet in the App Store, or go to wallet.rumble.com. It's an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy, help us here at Badlands Media. And shout out to Rumble for making this awesome technology. Wallet.rumble.com. And with that, let's do the boost. We got a few of them. 1027JS for $20 says, have a good show tonight. Thank you, Joe, my fellow North Dakotan. Joe, you got to come to Deadwood. You got to come to one of these GARTs one of these days. And then we have Liberty 2112 for $5 says, update. After petitioning my ban, Truth Social reinstated my account. Apparently they thought I was a bot. Justice is served. Now back to trash talking the Uniparty.
Yep. He said trannies on there, and Truth Social.
Truth Social?
Yeah, Truth Social, for whatever reason, always rejects the word trannies.
Weird. But Trump can say transgender?
For everyone.
We also got Badlands Canada left one for the whole company. Says, thank you for all your hard work fighting the info war on a worldwide platform. They now have a group for Canadian Badlanders. There's a Telegram link. You can also contact badlands-canada-group at outlook.com.
Wow.
That's great. Appreciate that. And then a couple of rants here. We have Simple Sam 1779 says, can Bondi talk about the files now that the Dow is below 50,000? I thought that was really funny. Julie JN for $5 says, my husband is currently working on the Meta data center in Louisiana that is paying big bucks. We live in California. They fly him home a couple times a month as well as others.
Wow.
That's wild.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Curious what exactly he's working on there. Like, is he building it or is he working in the data center? The final demand says, if we got the real Trump from day one, 2017, we would already be vacationing on Mars, in my opinion. But we aren't there yet because the majority of the people are retarded. How do you fix that? I don't think you can fix stupid. I think we've learned that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. Then Ron and Sticks for $10 says, Chris and John, it is appreciated of your time expended. Thank you for the $10. Appreciate that. And that's all we got, Chris. So what, you got the video for me?
I sure do. I meant to do that already and didn't do that, but now I'm doing it.
Okay, here we go. So here's the outro to guys' night. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern will be the second episode of America First Stories. I recorded an interview with Skip from Patriot Protect, and it was a fun one. You know, I do this America First story trying to like get to the why behind and the story behind what these people, like what got these people into their business and why they believe in what they're doing and whatnot. And, you know, as a guy who tries to protect your online footprint, he was very difficult to get to tell his story. But after multiple attempts at chipping away, I did get him there. So I'd encourage you guys to check that out. And I don't think I'm doing the gaming tomorrow, but if anything changes, I'll let you guys know. Bad gaming. But anyway, with that, we will see you guys later. Chris, as always, it was a pleasure.
Good times.
Have a good night.
You too.
Smells like Teen Spirit if it was in the 80s.